All right, family. We live once again. It's on with the general. We got a fire presentation today. Why the Abydos Egyptian kings list before the Noah flood. Man. Break it down, family. This is gonna be very, very powerful. I'm glad you are in the house. You should never miss no videos with this type of information. So make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're always on time before we get started. Make sure you check me out on Patreon. The link is right there at the top of the chat. Over 500 exclusive live streams that you cannot witness no other place on the planet. So make sure you become a patron today. Also, kingseti.com online marketplace where we have official General SETI products, DVDs, t-shirts, hoodies, African and Kemetic jewelry. Get you some fly because you know it's fly. You better get on over there and get fresh to death. That's right, family. And become a member. You can become a member of General SETI's page, Sarah Student SETI's page. All you have to do is go to the home page, click the link, become a member, and gain access, to exclusive material, videos, and you feel me? And make sure you give this video a thumbs up, like it because you love it, share it with your family and friends, comment. Just don't say nothing stupid because you will get banned. This is very critical, family. I'm going to drop some heavy, heavy mental on you today. Why the Abydos Egyptian kings list destroys the Noah flood myth. Okay? Now, let's talk about this because this is critical. Because even in the Bible, okay, it says that Egypt is post-diluvian, meaning that Egypt came after the flood of Noah, okay? That it came after the flood of Noah. And we must understand because that's going to be critical in this expose of exposing the Bible and its fraudulent claims about Egypt. Okay, so Egypt is post-diluvian. Supposedly, Egypt is the son of Ham, which is the son of Noah. And according to the Bible, Noah is the grandfather of Egypt. Okay, so if you want to, that's what the Bible says, that Noah is the grandfather of Egypt. And so what we have here, you got Noah. Noah was 600 years old at the time of the flood. Okay, Noah was 600 years old at the time of the flood. Okay, and according to the Jewish text, Jewish theologians and rabbis, the flood took place 1,656 years from creation. Creation was around 3,761 BC. Okay, 3,761 BC. And so the flood took place 1,656 years after creation, which would put the flood around 2,105 BC. That's very devastating right there. Those dates alone right there are very devastating. Creation around 3,761 BC, the flood taking place 1,656 years from creation, putting the flood around 2,105 BC. And at the time of the flood, Noah was 600 years old. And the flood lasted 1 year and 10 days. Yeah. Yeah. One year and 10 days. So at the end of the flood, Noah was 601 years old. Now, This is critical. This is critical because at this date that we're talking about, the flood at 2105 BC, that's not in alignment with the dynastic chronology of ancient Egypt. It's not in alignment. So let's look at this now. At the end of the flood, 2105 BC, that is the end of the sixth dynasty of ancient Egypt. And we're talking about after the rule of Pharaoh Pepi II. So Egypt is going into the first intermediate period. Okay. Now let me explain something to you. At the time when we're talking about 2105 BC, at the time of the flood, by that time, 43 pharaohs have ruled. 43. Now take it in mind, Egypt not even supposed to be in existence. You see? Egypt is not even in existence right now. Matter of fact, for a lot of people, they need to see this. They need to see this. And let me get it up here for you. This is very critical. Showing you that there's no way you can attribute nothing that the Bible is talking about with Egypt other than them saying that they black and that Ethiopia was their brother. That everything else, you might as well just throw it in the garbage. You might as well throw it in the garbage. I got it here for anybody that want to look it up. You see, you need to look it up, but you need to put it in the chronological order that the general is dropping it so it makes sense. You see? Okay, where is that? Okay, here we go. I think this is it. So you can see. I don't want y'all to think the general making nothing up. Okay, here you go. Let me put it on the screen for y'all. Black power to all my family that's out there. Most definitely, we're in the house. Let me pull it up for y'all. So you can see it for yourself. Okay. So let me make sure it's looking good on my screen, y'all. Okay. Yeah, that's good. So when we look up here, it says in Jewish tradition, uh, the date of Noah's flood is calculated very precisely using the Hebrew biblical chronology preserved in rabbinic sources. So I don't want y'all to think this coming from any other source other than Judaism and the rabbinic sources. Okay, so Jewish rabbinic date for the flood of Noah, the year of the flood, according to traditional Judaism, the flood occurred in the Hebrew year 1656 from creation. From creation. Okay. So you can see here what it says you talking about the flood. We got that year. The creation was 3,761 BC. The flood was 1,656 years after creation, which would put the flood around 2,105. You see, so when we talk about the flood begins the 17th day of the second month, Noah is 600 years old at that time. Okay, he's 600 years old. Okay, so but let's get down here. So I want this to I'm connecting the dots now. I'm connecting. And I asked to say how old, and I already got that. Noah was 600 years old. Okay, but let's come down here. We're gonna tack on some more knowledge. What Pharaoh was ruling in Egypt at the time of Noah's flood. Now, when you go into that and you ask that question, it's gonna say there is no Pharaoh that can be reliably identified as ruling during Noah's flood, because the biblical flood date does not align with Egyptian history in a way that allows one. Okay. And so, what it should just say is that according to the Bible, Egypt is not even in existence yet at 2,100, according to the Bible. Is not even in existence yet, because Egypt, according to the Bible, is post-Diluvian, meaning that Egypt came into existence after the flood. That's a problem. You see, that's a problem, And so it says that but it also acknowledged Egypt was fully functioning at that time, which it should not. Now let me go on here and let me go and put this in here. Let me go on in here and ask: does the Bible say that Egypt was born after after Noah's flood? Let me put that in there. Watch this. Let's see what it say. Let's see what it say. Let's see what it say. It's moving a little slow, but we're gonna get it. We're gonna get it to pop in. We're gonna get it to pop in. When you see that damn dot breathing like that, that motherfucker is in trouble. You see, it's in trouble. It's thinking. You can see it's thinking. It's thinking because it don't know what it want to say. Because we over here lining it up, and they can't come with nothing other than the truth. But in the meantime, in between time, let's because it's breathing real hard. Let me go ahead and give it some help, because it need to come on with it. I be working it. I'm in here working it, family. It's breathing. That mug don't want to say nothing. Come on. You're saying nah, it ain't even, nah, it didn't kicked out. It didn't kicked out. It's saying that's all right. That's all right. It don't make a difference. It don't make a difference. I'll pop right back on in until it kick back in. You know, I once it kick back in, I'll pop it back in. But the reality is we don't need it because everything that I say, I can back it up. So here it is. Egypt not even supposed to be in existence at the flood. You see, ain't even supposed to be in existence. But at that date of 2105 BC, 43 pharaohs have ruled up to that point. 43. You see, now let's talk about this now. Because we talking about at the end of Pepi II, which is the 6th dynasty. That means all the pyramids are already standing. All the pyramids are already standing at the time of Pepi II. You talking about the pyramid, the step pyramid of Saqqara. You talking about the pyramids of Unis, the pyramids of Teti, the pyramid of Huni, the pyramids of Seneferu, the pyramids of Khufu, Khafra, Menkaure. All those pyramids are already standing. You see, all those pyramids are already standing, which would require literally hundreds of thousands of years of you're talking about intellectual development. You see, that alone destroys Noah's flood. Ain't no way you can explain Egypt by way of the Bible. That just ain't it's just not going to happen like that. Let me see if it popped up. Oh, it did. It finally popped up. Let me see. And it probably shut the guy. It probably shut. What does the Bible say that Egypt was born after? You hear what? Yes. Here you go. It's in there. You know I don't lie. You know I come up with the truth all the time. Here it is. Here it is. So for anybody that wanna, it says yes. What did I ask it? So you can see the question. Now I want you to see the question. Does the Bible say that Egypt was born after Noah's flood? Yes, the Bible does present Egypt as coming into being after Noah's flood, genealogically speaking. But it's important to understand what that means and what it does not mean. Okay, there you go. There you go. Here's the text-based, no spin answer. Does the Bible say Egypt was born after the flood? Yes, genealogically in Genesis in the Bible, Egypt is called Mizraim. Mizraim is presented as a descendant of Noah. The sons of Ham were Cush, Mizraim, Foot, and Put, and Canaan. Okay. And so, only 8 people got off the boat. That was Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, Ham, Shem, Japheth, and their 3 wives. So that's 8 people. So Egypt was out. Now you in a critical situation. You in a critical situation. So, and so there is critical distinction. Egypt, the Bible is not saying, now listen here, but here's the critical distinction, very important. Listen to this spin. The Bible is not saying Egypt as a civilization began after the flood. Egyptians had no history before Genesis 10. Egypt literally did not exist before Noah. Listen to this garbage. The Bible is doing this, creating a theological genealogy. I'm done with this. You see, this is crazy. You see, and I can go in here and wrestle it. I can go in here and wrestle it and shut it down real quick, but I ain't going to do that right now. You see what I'm saying? But I am going to do it after, because even if they said it got there, you're going to have to show a break in the timeline. Okay, no matter what, the AI is full of garbage right now. Because even if it is saying that Egypt existed before or whatever, it would be a break if it's a flood that then washed away everything on the planet according to what the Bible is saying. Even if it was some pharaohs there, it would have been a break. There would have been an abrupt break because the flood has flooded the planet. I don't know what AI is trying to say. See, so this is why that. But see, you can go in here and make it tap, and I will make it tap, after I get on it, but I'm not going to do that right now. But anyway, so here it is, because they know that that's erroneous and they know what that would mean. But nevertheless, even saying that Egypt, because I already did that, even saying that Egypt existed before the flood, and you got a kings list, you got the Abydos kings list, and it goes from Narmer to Seti the First, which is almost 2,000 years of continuous rule. If there's a flood at any point in time, in that chronological list of kings, then whenever that flood, it's going to be an abrupt stop of the Egyptian civilization and any other civilization on the planet. It's going to be, but that kings list is from 3200 BC to around, Seti came on the throne around 1200 BC. So you're talking about 2,000 years, continuous rule. You're talking about there's no other kings list on the planet that has, and that's an original. You're talking about, you're talking about 2,000, no other nation on the planet has a document that shows actual rulers. Because these rulers got either temples, they got tombs, they got pyramids, they have all statues with their names on it. So these is real men that's ruling. So if there's a flood at any point in time in that 2,000 years, then it's going to come to an abrupt stop. So even the AI, I could go in there and wrestle it and put it in the headlock. You understand what I'm saying? But I'm not going to do that. So now let me bring this, and I'm going to have to do a part 2 to this, because this is you got to get this. So now what's critical to show you, according to because you can see it in what they call the Israelites. Now, Joseph, according to the Bible, according to the rabbinic sources, Joseph's birth was 2199 BC. And so from 2199, you understand, subtracting the flood happened around 1,656 years from creation. You see, from creation, is 500. Well, you're talking about 21, the flood around 16, minus 1656. That's the time of years of the flood. Joseph's birth was 2199 years from creation. So which put the we talking about, that would have been 543 years between the birth of Joseph and the flood. That's what it boils down to. So why did I pick Joseph? Because it is during the time of Joseph that the Israelites supposedly came into Egypt. I brought that up because I want to clear this up for people. Joseph's birth was 2199. The flood was 1656. Okay, 1656, but actually 1656 years from creation. Okay, creation is at 3761 BC. The flood was 1656 years from creation. Okay, from creation. And so at the time of Joseph's birth, the flood had passed by 543 years. Make that clear. Okay, why did I make that clear? Because when Jacob enters Egypt, he enters Egypt with 70 people. That's crazy. That's crazy. From the flood to the time of Jacob coming into Egypt, and the Bible clearly documents that the Israelites' population was 70 people. That's, man, you talking about erectile dysfunction. You talking about, man, y'all motherfuckers hanging on by a string. Real talk. Y'all hanging on by a string. And so why is that? Because how is it possible that you got Ham, you got Shem, you got Japheth, all of these are the sons of Noah, and they all got off the boat at the same time. You look at the children of Ham, which is Egypt, Ethiopia, Canaan. These is nations. They have become nations. They have populated into nations. They're building megalithic structures, pyramids, and all of this. And then when the Israelites come into Egypt, pyramids already built, they still at 70 people. So the question is, if they all got off the boat at the same time, how is it look like the Africans had been blessed? How could they come into civilization and build all these great cities, and the Israelites is still stuck at 70 people? And by the graces of the Pharaoh that Joseph asked Pharaoh, could he allow his family to come into Egypt? If the Pharaoh would have denied them entrance into Egypt at the time of that famine, they probably would have went extinct according to the Bible. They probably would have went into there's no way they could have survived. So by the graces of the Pharaoh, and that's why Jacob blessed the Pharaoh, and they don't talk about that. They always talk about the evil Pharaoh, but they don't talk about when Jacob blessed, because he knew that they was on their way out of there. You feel me? And so this is crazy, because I'm gonna tie this up. Okay, I'm gonna tie this up. So now Jacob came into Egypt according to rabbinic sources, not what we're talking about. We're gonna go by their own dates. They say that Jacob came into Egypt 2238 BC. Okay, that was 582 years after the flood. Jacob and the Israelites come into Egypt in 2238 BC, 582 years after the flood, and they stayed in Egypt for 430 years, okay? And so according to rabbinic sources, the Exodus was around 2668 BC. 2668 BC. That's very critical. They stayed in Egypt for 430 years. Why am I putting these dates? So at the time of Exodus, they got a short chronology and they got a long chronology according to rabbinic sources, which means they got two dates of the Exodus. They got a short chronology, they got a long chronology. The short chronology, they saying that, they exited under Amenhotep II or Tutmosis III. And by that time, 80 to 85 pharaohs had ruled by the time of the Exodus. 80 to 8, that's the short chronology. The long chronology says that, Ramesses II would have been the pharaoh under the Exodus. And so by that time, 95 to 100 pharaohs had ruled. That's very critical. You know why I chose the Exodus? Because I went over this with y'all the last time when Moses wrote the Bible. You see, when Moses wrote the Bible. And Moses, again, if y'all did miss that, Moses lived to be 120 years old. He lived to be 120 years old. Acts 7, if y'all go in there and get that, Acts 7 will give you the chronology of the life of Moses. And so Moses lived to be 120 years old. The first 40 years of his life, he's an Egyptian. He's an Egyptian. He kills Pharaoh's soldier and he had to flee Egypt. When he flees Egypt, he's 40 years old. Then the next 80 years old, the next 40 years of his age, but when he turns 80, he's coming back into Egypt. He has been given charge by God to go in and free the Israelites. So he's 80 years old at the burning bush when the angel of the Lord talked to Moses in the burning bush. He's 80 years old. So from the burning bush to the Exodus, he's 80 years old. The last 40 years of his life is the wanderings of the Israelites in the Sinai desert. They wandered out there for 40 years until the death of Moses. And then at the death of Moses, Joshua takes them into the land of Canaan. Okay. Now it's in the last 40 years of his life when he writes the Bible. You can go in there and read it. We went over that and the AI backed that up. He wrote the scriptures in the last 40 years of his life. The first 80 years, there is no Bible. So I had to make that clear. That's why Exodus is the first book of the Bible, not Genesis, Exodus, because you can't put the publication before the publisher. Moses supposedly published the first 5 books of the Bible. Okay, it said when you open up the Bible, it says the first book of Moses, Genesis. So you can't put the publication before the publisher. And so he's born in Exodus. So you have to put Exodus before any of them books because he didn't write the books until the last 40 years of his life. You see what I'm saying? So at the time when Moses was just an Egyptian, there was no Bibles to say that Noah flood. Wasn't no Noah flood. Ain't nobody know about no Noah flood. Ain't no Bible. How would you know about Noah flood? Ain't nobody know about no damn Noah flood. Nobody knows about Ham and Shem. Nobody know about that. You see? And even when he published, and the crazy thing about it, and I went over that too, and you can look that up in AI. It'll give you the facts. Do you know that Moses supposedly lived around the Exodus? Okay. So you talking about 2668. Do you know it's almost 1,000 years between Moses supposedly writing the Bible in the oldest Hebrew literature on the Bible? It's 1,000 years. But because the Dead Sea Scrolls is around, the earliest is around 200, I believe it is. I think 200 BC is the earliest date that they get the Dead Sea Scrolls. 200 BC, that's the earliest literature in Hebrew dealing with any of the books that supposedly the books of Moses. So Moses at 1200, literally 1200 BC, at the time of Ramesses, 1200 BC, and then you got the Dead Sea Scrolls at 200 BC. So you got 1 millennium between Moses and the earliest literature in Hebrew on any of them books of 1,000 years. Wow. You see, wow. But what I'm saying is, how can you, and use the Bible to explain Egypt, that when almost 100 pharaohs didn't rule before Moses even writes the Bible? They ain't never mentioned nothing about no flood. They ain't never mentioned, and we know that it's a fact, but because there's no way that you could have a flood that can wash away everything and people come back, and this is crazy. I mean, they was talking about Pharaoh at the time of Abraham. They was talking about Pharaoh at the time of Abraham. You see what I'm saying? So I would like to know, wait a minute, let me look that up. I want to know how long Abraham lived after the time of the flood. I got to know that, because that's critical. That just because Abraham had a run-in with Pharaoh. Yeah, Abraham had a run-in with Pharaoh. So I want to know how long after, okay, so let's see how long Abraham lived after the flood. See, this is how you bust this up. You can let them use their own dates. We want them to use their own date. Let me see if it'll kick in. Let me see if it'll kick in. Almost 100 pharaohs ruled before Moses writes the first 5 books of the Bible that they call the Torah. You see, 100 pharaohs, all type of pyramids are standing, and they telling you that Egypt was born after the flood. And AI went in there lying. I'm gonna get on AI as soon as, because I'm gonna wrestle it to the ground before and watch, and I'll bring it back to you tomorrow and let you see how it tap. Because I'm gonna make it tap. I'm gonna make it tap. You see, it's breathing again on me, real. It's breathing on me. You're right. It didn't exist at 2600 BC, and I proved that the other day too. That's why I wrote That's why I had the. Let me see. Okay, it's kind of slowing up on me. That's all right. We still in the house. Don't worry. Don't worry. I had to clean this computer up. And we did prove that too, that there was no Hebrew at that time. And there is no Hebrew. The Hebrew is Canaanite. You see, it's the Phoenician. That's what Hebrew is. That's why they always ale this and ball this, and you know what I'm saying? That's where they get ale from. Because that's the name of God in the Canaanite language. That's where they get it from. And so it's breathing hard on me right now. It's breathing hard on me right now. It don't want to come up, but I'm gonna clean some things up so that it'll act right. You know, I'm gonna clean some things up so it'll act right. And yeah, it don't want to act right now. That's all right. We'll get it together. We'll get it together. But we didn't prove beyond any reasonable doubt that the chronology of the Bible is garbage. You can take it straight to the garbage can and discard it because that's what it is. Nobody in a logical mind can come up for any rational understanding based on the evidence that's here. There's no way that in 543 years, you had to use, it's no way in 543 years, you know, that after and as we talking about, there's no way. 540, and that's, you know, and you come up with all the knowledge, and then you got to repopulate the planet. So the flood, you know, to the time of Jacob, but see, Abraham already running. Okay, it popped up. It popped up. It took it a minute. I wanted to know how, you know, because right there it said that Abraham also had a run in. How long did Abraham live after the flood? I got it up here, family. I got it up here. Let me go on and run it up here so y'all can see it. Hold on, y'all. Okay, here we go. Let's get it up here. I don't want to hear, boy, this AI. How long after the flood did Noah live? Key biblical dates: Noah's flood, 1675, 1656. What I mean, Abraham born, and this is how many years after creation. You see, when you see that 1948, that's how many years after creation. Abraham was born 1948, 1,948 years after creation, 3,761. Okay, so at the time of the flood, lived and died about 467 years after the flood. You see, 467 years after the flood. So they already had a Pharaoh. They already had a Pharaoh 460, and they still out in the damn desert wandering around. Okay, it took them so at 467. And so how now let's talk about how long it took the Israelites versus, and that's still even at you know, at the time Abraham lived and died about 467 years after the flood. But wait a minute. How many years after the flood did Abraham himself live? If you mean, did Abraham live after the flood, and for how long? Abraham was born 292 years after the flood. He lived 175 years. His entire life took place after the flood. Okay, so, but yet and still he had a run in with Pharaoh. So Abraham, so you talking about Egypt was already in existence. You see, Egypt was already even in the Bible. Now, if you ask the question, how long did it take the Israelites to come into nationhood? It's around 1000 BC. So you talking about that the Egyptians was already, even according to the Bible, the Egyptians was already a nation, even with the line chronology. Egypt was already a nation 1,000 years before the Israelites. But everybody supposedly came off the boat at the same damn time. That's critical. What happened to them that caused them to stay out in the desert wandering? And they supposed to be the chosen people, where the Egyptians come into nation, the Ethiopians, the Canaanites, they come into nationhood almost 1,000 years before the Israelites, and Ham, Shem, and Japheth all come off the boat at the same time. What the problem is with that? You see, so here it is, you taking a fictional people, you talking about some cave dwellers who trying to find a history for themselves. And so what they do is they take a people far more ancient than anything that they could create, and you force fit them into a mythological story that chronologically is not adding up. It's not adding up. It ain't even close to adding up. You see what I'm saying? It ain't even close to adding up. Okay? So I just want, and we're going to come back to this. We're going to come back to this. This is the other dagger. Moses' life is this is a critical dagger. This is a critical dagger, family. But anyway, I appreciate y'all, man. Make sure y'all get over there to Patreon. Support the general, okay? It took 6 years for that water to drain into the ocean, lakes, rivers, streams, branches, swamp, creeks, but see, even when you say that, Wes Craven, think about that. If the oceans is already filled up, where did the water go? You say it drained. Drain where? Yeah, where did it go? You understand what I'm saying? It's saying the water was over the mountains. You see, the water had covered, I think they could see a few peaks of the mountains. But if the oceans and the rivers and the lakes were already full, where did the water go? Where did it go? You see, it ain't nowhere, because every valley had to be filled. Every valley had to be filled. It was nowhere else for the water to go. So imagine that. All right, family, I appreciate y'all. Get over there to Patreon. King Seti, we coming right black. Arm yourself with knowledge. Bang on the wicked ass beats daily. Liberation through African education and confrontation. Boom. Black power.